Welcome. You're back. You're here. And I got to say, I'm really proud of you for coming back. And I'm sure that you've seen some of the other episodes. And if you're new here, this is called Take It From Us, and I'm your host, Noah Wilburn. The goal is for you to watch this video, to watch this episode, to watch this interview and conversation, and walk away with something you can apply to your personal development, your personal growth. And right in front of me, I have the man with the plan. Handsome man, too. Eric Godet. How are you, sir?
I am well, Dora. Thank you. It is great to be here. I am truly honored to be a
Man.
guest, and I'm excited to hear what we're going to talk about.
I gotta say, I've been looking forward to this one for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I really have. There's a lot to get into. There's a lot that you've done. The first thing I got to start with though is let's just get some background. Let's set
Sure.
the stage. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Where are you from? Can we ask how old you are?
Absolutely.
Because you look like you're like 40.
I'm a lot older than 40, but hey, I'll take that as a compliment.
All right.
And so my name is Eric Godet. I grew up in the Bahamas. My family's from there. My dad's family, my mom's side, is from the United States, more the Tennessee area. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, at Hubbard Hospital. I think my dad was finishing up like a residency, something over there at Meharry. And my mom went to Fisk University, and so both of my parents went to HBCU. Dad and he actually met my mom from her brother, my uncle Thomas. They both met up in Lincoln, Pennsylvania. Lincoln University is another HBCU that was up there, and a lot of my family and stuff went there at that generation, and it was really neat. My parents met there in Nashville, and they had me, and then I think a year after that, they took off to the Bahamas, where I was raised, and I left there when I was 14. At 14, I was enrolled at a boarding school. It was up in Sewanee, Tennessee, between Chattanooga and Nashville, over there by the University of South. It was St. Andrew Sewanee Academy. What was really neat, there were people from all over the world. So I have friends and classmates that are probably in every country in the world. Like
So
in Japan.
you're still in contact with them?
Like Katsunaba Takahara in Japan.
Okay.
It's really neat. We have people in like every nation. I mean, and we had like the best soccer team in the state.
Yeah.
And
You played soccer?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
And so what was really neat is for me, it was one of those things that it was just great exposure, and it was tradition, especially I guess probably most Commonwealth nations or islands that didn't have higher education, where you would send your child off to boarding school and then they'd go off to college and stuff like that. My dad's generation, he went to college here, but I think he went to boarding school in Jamaica.
Okay.
And I think his father went to school in Jamaica also. And some would go to London. And with my mom's connection, we came over here.
Gotcha.
And so from there, I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia for 2 years. But just to share a little bit about me, my passion as a kid was always to be a priest. I always thought I was going to be a priest. Yeah. Grew up, Catholic then, always thought I was going to be a priest, and that kind of went sideways when I met my wife. We were teenagers, and I remember telling my dad, well, I don't think I'm going to make a good priest.
We all know what that means.
And he laughed, and it's the kind of thing, and he said, well, you better, go use some of that science and math you're pretty good at, that kind of thing, to move forward in life. And I said, okay. And so I always wanted to go to school internationally, and I was in my second year at Morehouse, and I applied for a program that's called the Basilica Theologica Italia in Rome, Italy.
Okay.
And I got in, and everything was good, and I was ready to go to Rome, man. I'm ready to head to Italy, and my dad looked at me and said, it's not happening.
Why?
He said, you're not going to Rome. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? My younger sister she was in London going to school, and she's talking about she's on the train traveling all these. I'm like, what do you mean? I can't. He said, nah. He said, I know all of my kids. I need to keep you close by. I'm like, okay. He said, they got all those priests and monks teaching the same stuff right over there at St. Leo's University kind of thing. And I was just like, hey. So I finished my final 2 years there. It was incredible. Met a lot of people. It was wonderful. And I'm glad for you have parents, because I tell people today, I got in a lot of trouble I thought I was a pretty good kid, but I'm thankful we didn't have cell phones and people recording some of the stuff today
I
that
see.
exists today.
I understand.
And so, but for me, it was a great experience. One of the best things out of that, we have like career days. And so I played soccer for the folks there at St. Leo's, that kind of thing in our team, and we have a good team. And what was really neat is I'm at the career day and I'm looking around. Everyone's asking me, what are you going to do with this theology degree? So I had majored in theology and biology, had the sciences, and I had taken physics, chemistry, calculus, all that stuff. And I figured I was going to teach. I didn't know what I was going to do. And everyone asked me, I was like, guess I'm going to teach. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I'm at the career day and they have all these people from all the companies and everything there. And I'm waiting on my roommate. He was an accounting major, that kind of stuff. And I'm just standing up there waiting for him so we could go and probably go do something, eat some lunch or something. And this guy comes up to me and like, hey, can I see your transcript? And I'm like, sure. I just to him. And he was just sitting there. I think he'd been like on a smoking break or something. And he came in and saw me standing there. He's like, oh, this is an interesting background. You got all these science courses in theology. He said, what do you plan to do with that? I said, well, if I don't get a job out of here, I guess I'm going to be teaching.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, would you be interested in working for us? I'm like, oh, who are you representing? I'm with IBM. I'm like, absolutely.
Francis Zipeto, business maps coach extraordinaire. He's got knowledge on how to level you up for days. Francis, thank you for supporting our platform.
And so he set me up, and they got me a flight and all that kind of stuff to go to D.C. It was on K Street to go and interview up there with IBM, and they did a lot of tests and that kind of stuff. And I came back, and then they wanted me to have a second interview.
What was the position for?
So I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
The position was for in their finance department. And I told him, I don't have any finance background. And he's like, well, that's good because we don't want you to. We're going to teach you everything you need to know.
That's interesting.
He said, what we're looking for, your transcript shows you have the ability to learn. You have all this calculus, you got physics, you got organic chem, you got all these sciences in addition to the humanities. What I'm here is to find a cultural fit. And if you're a cultural fit, we will teach you what you need to know and you will do it the way we need to. Because I said, my roommate, he's an accountant. I can say, we don't want the accountant majors.
Right.
We want the people that, and they're right. I was in the finance department. I did it exactly the way they taught me because I knew no other way.
How did that make you feel when he said that?
I felt good because I never knew about a cultural fit. I never heard of this term, and I didn't know any better.
Right.
So he was interested in me, so I was feeling good.
Like as
now,
a
my
person.
roommate was pissed off because he's the accountant major, and he
Right.
figured he should have this job, right? And I said, look, hey, I pitched your name. I tried to get him. He said, the man told me he didn't want any accountant majors.
Yeah.
He said he wanted someone who had the ability to learn, but more importantly, there would be a good cultural fit.
Which, side tangent, I mean, that shows the success of IBM just as an organization in general because of conversations like that where
Absolutely.
they're looking at not just the resume and what you do, but more so of who you are.
Exactly.
Like, so let's bring it back a little bit. So Bahamas to, what is it, Pennsylvania?
No, it was Tennessee.
Tennessee,
Yeah.
my bad. At 14.
Yeah.
So what does that do to you as a kid?
So it's a total shift.
Yeah.
It's a total different world. So I mean, I'm used to this. I didn't really understand how cushy a life I had and wonderful life. So I tell people when we camp, we would just dive in the canal that was behind our house and just pick up the lobster and that kind of stuff. And we'd use that when we're camping out. I get over here, I'm dealing with the snow up in the mountains. I'm dealing, and the adjustment. And it's just, it's one of those things, but it wasn't like I was caught off guard. I knew I was going as a kid off to boarding school, and I knew it would be when I was going to high school, so 14. So, it was just like the next stage in life. It was a big transition, but, there were kids there coming from all over the world. They were dealing with the same thing. So it really probably helped.
At what point in that transition did you realize that the person that you came in as you had to leave behind?
Well, my biggest thing when I went there, I wasn't concerned about myself as much, but it was my family. I was wondering how my family was going to cope without me. This is how big my little ego was.
Interesting.
At that time. I was concerned more about them. So I'm the eldest of 4 kids, and I was more worried about them than I was me.
Okay. So, and this is at 14.
Yeah.
And are you, at 14 and you have this consideration, is it at that moment you're like, okay, I might have a big ego thing going on? Like when did that thought occur to you?
So for me, it was kind of then that I realized the world didn't revolve around me.
Interesting.
It was that kind of thing. It was like a wake up call,
Right.
in terms that there is more that I'm supposed to be contributing and helping and making an impact more than everything being revolved. Because as a kid, everything, the parents provided everything was there.
Right.
And then it really became, that level of independence and finding out who I actually am.
Yes.
So where introspection really started.
Self-reflection.
Self-reflection.
Yeah.
I had a lot more quiet time than I ever had with all of my other siblings around and family.
And
we got a
this
lot
is-
of family in the Bahamas. I mean, we got,
Oh,
it's
of
just
course, yeah.
my point is, it was really, I didn't have the quiet moments in my life that I got to experience then.
Right. And this is, and again, like I can't emphasize this, like this is happening at 14.
At 14.
So which is interesting, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think of ego and pride, kind of the same thing, hand in hand at least. And it's so unique, or that I guess they call it one of the deadly sins. How much of a hold and how many areas in an individual's life that it actually enters and takes hold of. I mean, when you were when you started your career at IBM,
Yeah.
like in what ways as an individual that obviously God was training up to become a leader because of
Right.
where you're at now, but in what ways did you have to let go of this pride and this ego that was
Sure. Well, because I'm entering a field I know nothing about. So I'm not bringing anything in there, so I'm a sponge.
right.
I'm in like survival mode. I got to make it now. I got a good shot here. This is a good company.
Yeah.
Things are happening. This is a Fortune 100 company.
Right.
They provided everything. It was great, so you come out of school and your whole demeanor's changed. They're wearing blue suits, navy ties, great, they're sharp, they're clean, so wardrobe had to pick up, leave the collegiate, casual, comfortable dress and thing behind.
Yep.
It was a whole professional demeanor and culture and manner that I had to embrace because there wasn't an option. That was the standard.
Right.
And I was excited about it, but I also had this thing in the back of my mind, this job was easy, but I couldn't see myself counting other people's money the rest of my life. So what do I mean? My job was, they called it rebars, revenue expense billing adjustments.
Okay.
And I had an account with the federal government, and I'm just counting the dollars and stuff they're buying with the computers and different machines and tracking and making sure all the adjustments and billing and everything's correct.
Thank you to our sponsor, Elite Realty. Elite Realty is completely unmatched against the competition when it comes to their customer relations. Thank you, Elite Realty, for supporting our platform that's creating transparency around failure and helping people win all over the world. Thank you so much.
It wasn't hard. And I did it their way, so everything went well. But I always wanted to do more with my life, and I'm like, what? How am I going to leave this good job?
Cushy job.
Exactly.
Because it's supporting everything that
Exactly.
you do
I
in your
mean,
life. Okay.
everyone's like, oh, Aaron's got this great job, and everyone's going on wishing they had what I had.
Of course.
But I knew internally this isn't going to be long term for me.
And that's interesting, right? And I think those types of conversations for anybody in any stage of life, that's a hard conversation to have.
It is.
Because our external environment and the things that we receive do or can fuel what's going on inside. So
Absolutely.
the moment that your internal is not matching what you're seeing around you, it's like, dang, I think a change might need to happen. And I'm sure, and I guess a good question would be, the people around you who you surrounded yourself with, what were they saying when you were having these conversations? Because I know it wasn't just with yourself that you were having these conversations.
No, I was having
with.
these conversations more with my wife.
Okay.
Because Yvette and I got married right after I graduated.
Okay.
Right? So we got married on right after graduation. And so we were living up there in D.C. We were in Silver Spring and had a nice little apartment, 1-bedroom place on 815 Thayer Avenue. I'll never forget, that's my first place I got there, and able to get that lease and hang out there. And I worked right in Rockville Pike. And the beautiful thing about it is my desk in my little cubicle had a window. and that window looked across the street at the BMW dealership in Rockville Pike. And
Yeah.
I'd watch them loading and unloading those vehicles, every day, different kind of thing, people coming in and buying them. And I was like, man, I'm gonna get me one of those vehicles one day. This is how things fuel your mind. But my conversation is I was kind of stuck and didn't know what move to make. At that time, there were a lot of articles coming out on biotechnology and how to work towards commercializing technology research and really, moving it forward. And one of the first programs that I ever heard that did it was one up in Pennsylvania. It was Hahnemann University, and they now call it Drexel. They merged, and it's Drexel, part of Drexel University. They had a huge transplant program, and they were launching a biotech program. And I researched it, found out more about it, and applied, got accepted. And I'm like, okay, I'm excited about this. Now I'm sitting in my little cubicle doing my job and that kind of work. And the beautiful thing, my wife Yvette was fully supportive the whole time. She's like, look, hey, if that's what you're going to do, because we knew we were going to go to grad school, but we weren't sure what we were going to do. She was familiar with the area because she went to American University right there.
Okay.
And so we loved that DC area. So it was great from that standpoint. And when I got into Hahnemann, it was really exciting, and I enrolled in their graduate program. And my focus was study the stimulation of reticulocytes in bone marrow. Those are the young blood cells in bone marrow that are really generated. So it's more bone marrow transplant. My focus was on a lot of that. And that's how I got tied into the whole transplant industry and got hired over here at UF.
Okay.
And that program. But from that, I was really excited. And I think it was after my first year in grad school, I got a job offer from Johnson & Johnson.
Okay.
And they were, all the pharmaceutical companies were hiring up the folks in our class because they knew this was the next big thing, the whole biotech move that was going to really transition research into commerciation.
So the support system you have around you then, being your wife, and you were married at a young age, so it's definitely understandable. So they're encouraging you, they're affirming you and where you're at. Which also is something important to note as well, is the people that you surround yourself with.
It's critical.
Right, extremely. And not that people who push back on your stuff is not important, because it is. I think it's good to have a healthy diversity.
It's a healthy balance. My dad was excited for me, but very cautious. He's like, hey, you're married. You got this good job.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? How are you going to support yourself?
Yeah.
You're going to grad school, and it was
the realistic side of things. Right.
Yeah. That conversation was there. And for me, I said, I'll work at night and that kind of stuff. He said, man, that's a lot tougher. I'm like, if I can't do it now when I'm young, how will I be able to do this?
So how do you work through that though?
Yeah.
So like you have. This is good. So like you have the diversity, right? So you have the support system, and it's not like either side is wrong.
No.
But it's like, how are you working through your decision making when you understand that my external situation is great, but my internal is not,
Exactly.
and I need to change it? How do you work through that decision?
So it was great because my dad brought up all of these critical components about life that were really important that I needed to have solutions to. My mom. It's funny, so just to give you a little background on my parents. So my mom was an English teacher, big on the humanities. I tease her all the time. After Fisk University, and she did her undergrad there, she went on and did all of her stuff at University of Miami. Our family's this big Canes, Gator kind of thing there. We got groups in both, being close to the Bahamas. But my mom was the one really like, you need to look at your heart and what you really want to do. You're going to be working the rest of your life. And you need to be passionate about whatever you wanted to do. So your dad's using logic and this kind of stuff there, but he loves what he's doing. He chose that.
Okay.
You need to make sure you find out what you're willing to put in countless hours doing, and it's because you're passionate about it. And I think that resonated with me more. And I went and got a job with, what do we call it? Brown, the ones who deliver UPS. And so I worked on their 11 to 7 shift, right?
Gotcha.
At night. And I'd go in there with like a gallon bottle of just solid ice, and I'd be loading boxes and packages in the container thing and that kind of stuff all night. And then, then I'd come back home, sleep, and then head to school. And so for me, it was one of those things where I jumped in and I did that. But it was good because I was excited about what I was doing and excited about the future.
The external was matching with the internal again.
Exactly. And it paid off because after a year, when I got the offer from Johnson & Johnson, I mean, I still had a year in and I already got the offer. And when my dad saw how much they offered me, he's like, well, you made the right decision.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those things, but it goes back to you saying having that support system around you to really, you know, it wasn't like, oh, everybody was supporting me the whole way. It was just like, no, there were some tough conversations.
There was diversity.
Yeah.
And there was decisions that had to be made. It's, you know, to listen to you speak, something occurs to me. Oh, crap. I did not mean to hit that mic. Sorry. Listen to you speak, something occurs to me. And what it is that our life, I feel, is spent trying to match these two things together, the external, the internal. And, you know, for some people, like you look at the unfortunate, right? And I feel like it's easy for an individual to get comfortable in being mismatched with the internal, external, or even external and internal, right? And it's important. A key quality to have as an individual is to have this decision-making power and process, right? The confidence. And not ego or pride, but the confidence to know that after listening to all the points, after going to my support system, praying about it, whatever it is that you might believe, making that decision to like just go and like do it. So here's a sensitive question.
Sure.
In what ways has your ego and pride been your downfall in areas of your life?
So, you know, their ego blinds. And you know, and I think pride just compounds that blindness. And, you know, for me, it's one of those things where whenever I start thinking about myself too much, that's where I think I'm being blinded. It's not, and it's never been about me. And sometimes when I realize I've taken that approach, I have regret and mistakes. And so there's an example when I was here with RTI in our early days, and it was just a handful of us who were founders after we spun off and came out of the University of Florida. We had this brilliant young scientist we brought on board, right? UF grad, PhD, great guy. And, you know, I'm sure he had a lot of pride and ego too. And he sent out this email that was factually incorrect. And, you know, and he's taking these shots and had some stuff about me in there. And I didn't even think twice about him, the company, or individual else. I just knew he was incorrect. And I responded to all in that email and just blasted him with the true facts, the regulations, the details, the whole industry, the structure.
Right.
He didn't know. He was new, but he thought, you know, he was correct.
So you just try to put you put him in his place.
Back. I struck back. I retaliated.
Right.
You know, and I felt good when I did it. Right. And it wasn't till later I realized, because this guy was crushed. And he disappeared, you know, he wasn't at work for a couple of days, and everybody's like, woo.
It was like that?
It was like that. It's like, ooh, don't mess with me. Don't mess, you know, all this kind of stuff going on. And it's just like, and then I started really feeling bad. Like, I could have handled that so much better. This guy was younger than me. I could have handled this so much better. I was him.
So you're feeling convicted now?
I was convicted, totally convicted.
Interesting.
I was this guy thinking I knew it all, you know, and if it wasn't for the grace of some mature, wiser people that helped guide me in the right direction, I would probably still be making those things, thinking that it was all about me, being full of pride and ego with my knowledge. I mean, I was very fortunate. I was invited to do stuff in D.C. to help work on the Anatomical Gift Act, you know, for transplant stuff. And I was like one of the youngest guys on this thing. There was a lot of prestige and different things happening around there. So I felt pretty good about me and what I was doing in the world, that kind of stuff. But I was missing a key component in terms of how do you reach out to others and help them reach that point or even go further. And so it was that point of conviction that, you know, I actually went to him and apologized
Gotcha.
And I said there was a much better way for me to do this. I was totally wrong.
Yeah.
I was just transparent. I reacted. I retaliated. I wanted you to feel some hurt and pain because I was really angry.
Right.
And that was totally immature of me. And I hope you can forgive me because I was wrong. It doesn't matter what you did. I was wrong. He and I became very close friends after that, and there was so much in it. And to me, it was a turning point for me
Interesting.
in terms of maturity and recognizing that I've been given these gifts and talents to give back into this world, not to just elevate myself.
Right.
You know, and whenever I jumped on board with my ego and my pride, I created these blind spots that I didn't see the impact I was having on others. And so it's dying to self, dying to pride, but really, how can I give of myself?
Right.
And give more to others and help elevate and lift up others? Because I didn't get here on my own.
And conviction is a powerful, it's a powerful thing, man. Conviction, like I feel like you can't reach that point unless if you have that conviction. Yeah. And, you know, like on, you know, I believe for both of us, you know, we believe where conviction comes from, you know, the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah,
you know, God.
absolutely.
And but there is a certain level of conviction a leader, and by the way, audience, you're a leader. You whatever you do, no matter how many people are with you,
leaders.
we're all leaders, right? And whether it's leading ourselves or leading other people, there has to be a point where when we are self-reflecting and we reevaluate situations, like an email being sent, or for me, it was like, I remember a couple weeks ago, I was playing basketball and then, you know, we lost, and this guy, he's kind of playing dirty, and I cursed and like all these things. And then I had to go up to him and apologize. I was like, dude, that wasn't, that's not me. And I'm sorry. Like, I shouldn't have done that. So it's like, but you have to have conviction.
Right.
And without conviction, you know, you just keep going. You just keep going and going and going and going.
You're right. You nailed it. So if somebody had come to me and said, oh, man, that's wrong, you shouldn't have done, I would have blown them off. Hey, I'm defending myself. Everything I said was the truth. Name one thing in there in that email that isn't correct factually or the truth. So it's that whole thing. I may have been factually correct, but total attitudinally wrong.
Heart positioning,
Exactly,
bro.
yeah.
Literally, like going through that as we speak.
Yeah.
Heart positioning.
It is.
Go ahead.
No, you're right. Your heart positioning is correct, because that conviction I was able to receive from that internally than I would have from any external kind of correction. It would not have been received. I was at that point, anything coming from the outside would have been repelled.
Right.
Defenses were up, man. Hey, I was on guard, baby. I'll take you down. It's battle time. You know, it came from an unexpected source internally and just crushed and shaped and softened me internally.
Come on, bro.
Where I had to step out and reach out and apologize.
Yes, softened.
Yeah.
What a key word, right? Because if we harden our hearts to, like, we can have conviction, but then that second step, you gotta soften the heart, bro. Because if you keep it hard and you got conviction, you in real trouble. Okay, and you gotta soften the heart. I mean, it's so key. Regardless if you're right or not, it's never about, or usually it's never about being right. It's just it's all about understanding why that person was either wrong, where that person was coming from. It could be anything political. It could be business. It could be you know, peer to peer, whatever it might be. You gotta understand the other person and their side. Because ultimately, like, how else are we supposed to build each other up?
Right.
And how else, like, you look at cities, you look at organizations, you look at teams. The only way success happens in any of those situations is when the individuals in that organization, team, or city are building each other up, are building. And you can't build each other up if you don't have a soft heart, bro. And if you're not convicted about pride and ego.
Exactly.
Interesting, really interesting story, man. So let's talk about who you are now. Okay. Because like what it you know, just to recap a little bit, you know, again, 14 years old, moving from the Bahamas to Tennessee. Right. You know, going and studying in different places and getting a job at IBM and Johnson & Johnson and you know, just slowly but surely kind of learning and I would even dare to say specializing in what it is that you do now. And how does who you are now play into what you do?
Sure. So for me, it's one of those things. I look at myself and I'm still the little boy that wanted to be a priest.
Oh yeah.
So what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
My heart is still the same. I'm the same individual, but in a grown body as an adult. That means I really want to elevate and lift those up around me. Now, I was fortunate to have these jobs that helped many people. And in the transplant industry, if we weren't saving a life, we were helping a life, and making it better.
Right.
And being blessed to do these jobs that I'm passionate about, there was a component with business that was always in there. It didn't happen without having a business acumen.
Okay.
And allowing other individuals, and you mentioned it earlier, to understand that they are a leader. They don't have to change. They don't have to do anything. They were created a leader. Now, how can I help them recognize that leader within them? How can I help them push themselves to become that leader? Whatever you're going to do, if you're going to be successful, there's going to be pain and it's going to be hard. Now, how do I help you recognize that and jump in and choose your pain and choose your hard? So for me in grad school, it was choosing the job at Brown, at UPS,
Right.
and knowing that I had to put in that labor. You know what I mean? And choose going to grad school and Wicked, and knowing I had to do that work. It's no different than fitness, physical fitness. Knowing you go into the gym and you got to put in that work. You're going to feel pain when you're working out and doing that stuff at the gym and running on the treadmill or doing whatever you're doing. But that's scheduled pain for a better outcome, to create an outcome you want. That pain is going to come whether you don't go to the gym and you're out of shape and you're dealing with a heart attack or some kind of physical ailment or a stroke or something later on in life. But we can't escape this. So we must embrace. There's another term, that I think the military will use a term like embrace the suck, or some kind of thing.
Yeah.
I had a good friend, your dad knows him, Dean Fago. He and his wife moved here the same time Yvette and I did. And it was really neat. He used to say, run to the battle. You want to go somewhere, there's going to be a challenge, there's going to be opposition, there's going to be a struggle. Run to it.
Right.
Don't avoid it. Wake up early, hit it hard, run to the battle. Embrace it. There's going to always be anything worthwhile, you're going to have to overcome something. So release that leader within you and go after that thing you want and be willing to pay that price.
Yeah. There's an inner warrior in everybody, man.
It is.
Male or female, like there is something in you that is striving for something better. And
those visions we have, everybody has a vision. Everybody has an idea. Everybody has things they want. You see somebody driving in a car and you like that. Are you willing to pay the price to get that?
Yep.
If you really want it, you will pay the price. And how do we wake up individuals to recognize that energy, that power, that spirit, that faith within them to jump in the fight, to go after what they want?
What is the suck that right now you're embracing, or that you're jumping into essentially? What is that hard for
right
you?
now, I have a vision for our community.
Okay.
Right? And it doesn't mean that everybody's on board, right?
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't have a vision. A lot of people think of our community the way it used to be. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. But my whole thing is transforming that vision by collaborating and working with city, county, businesses, churches, schools, nonprofits, to get everyone together to improve. If it's something we don't like in this community, we can change it. And so that's embracing the naysayers, everything else. We have this incredible biotech industry here today. 30 years ago when I got here, we didn't have it. And most people thought it was never going to happen.
Okay.
And now everyone talks about like they were part of making it happen. I love it. But that's the beauty. There are people with a vision who are willing to stick with it until it happens. And it's the same thing for our community. We got a lot of workforce housing that we need. We got a lot of affordable housing that we need. We have a lot of kids that need mentoring in our community. We have a lot of kids that need to be guided and shown and helped and loved. Kids in single parent households, kids who are homeless. Are we willing to embrace those areas we don't like and interact with these individuals. Make eye contact with the homeless guy and really ask him how he's doing and how you can help him, or we can just kind of glance at him and just drive on by. Are we willing to make the effort and take the tough steps to lift up our fellow men in the community, or do we just want to complain and talk about what we should do or what somebody else should do? And I look at that as our community. We have so much opportunity here that I don't think we're tapping into. I believe we're the greatest community in the world. I love Gainesville. If I loved somewhere else, I would live there. But this is the place I choose, but I know we can be so much more. So I'm not afraid to be critical of our community in our hometown.
Yeah.
Because, hey, I'm willing to do the work, spend the money, whatever it takes to help us get there where we can take care of everyone in our community.
Yeah, and it's important, man. Yeah, the community is extremely important. What I want to get to is for you internally.
Yeah.
What is that suck?
So for me, it's really, I can get fatigued, right? And wonder if I should make that effort because I don't think it's going to be appreciated, right? And it's overcoming that internal battle. So for me, it's really how do I motivate myself? How do I stay charged up? And that suck for me is making sure for me to be effective, I have to get up. So this morning, I'm up at 3 a.m., man. And I'm praying, and I'm preparing my mind, and I'm stretching, and I'm working out. And I'm doing all those things I need to do to have a great day. If I don't do that, I can't give to others. I have to feed me first. I can't give what I don't have. So I have to take care of those things that are important to me to function well, to make that happen. Now, if I wasn't doing this, I could wake up later and do those things and make that happen. But I'll give you an example. Last night, my night ended at 8 p.m. First meeting, I think, started at 7:30. But it was one of the most rewarding nights. I got to witness young men in our community that are part of Mirror Image Leadership Academy. These are the original classmates that came out of the whole program. That Greg Bradley had this vision.
Shout out to Greg,
and
man.
Founded, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is, he rallied a lot of men in the community to come on board and help support this vision. And you talk about what an honor. I looked last night at these young men, and I remembered them 3 years ago. Man, the transition, the transformation, the power and self-awareness that was coming out of them last night was incredible. So the city of Gainesville, and a shout out to the city, Mayor Ward, our city manager, Cynthia. I just thought, it's amazing what they put together. And they created this art show where these young men had created artwork addressing different issues in our community. And then in addition to that, they created these T-shirts. And they modeled these T-shirts and explained their artwork, and they had food, and it was at the Thomas Center. It was incredible. And then we got to hear them address the concerns in our community and how the community can come on board and help young men, teenagers in our community, overcome some of the challenges, gun violence, different things, stuff like that. And engagement. And to look at these young men who just come back from a trip from Ghana and Africa and sharing their reflections on what they've learned and the differences and that kind of stuff. And I remember these guys 3 years ago. Now, they're all probably about 3 times the size they were, that group when they grow from, beginning of middle school into high school. You see that transition. But these are kids who came in there just talking about NBA and being major league baseball player, this kind of stuff. Now they're exposed.
There's so much more perspective.
Exactly. They understand, thinking about being an architect, attorney. Their world has changed. The exposure. And to me, that makes it worthwhile. And so when I got up this morning, I was thinking of last night. And I had a big old smile. And to me, that's embracing it, man. Just going in and let me put in the work.
Yeah.
Because I have to take care of me if I'm going to be able to give anything to anyone else.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it definitely sounds like, when the internal battle happens for you, one of the foundations that you fall upon is the result of what happens when you embrace the suck.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting tactic for an individual to apply. And and all it really is, it's visioneering. It's looking ahead. It's beginning with the end in mind. And sometimes the journey, right? And this is so existential, but the journey it can be difficult. It can be rough. But as my dad always said to me growing up, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And ultimately, I believe that this life and the things that we do, it's meant to prune us. It's meant to, take out the bad, whether that be the ego, the pride. It's meant to shape us, into the person that, God wants us to be. And very, very insightful. Very insightful.
It is. We know we have an incredible community, but as long as others are being left behind, we're not as good as we really think we are. We're only as strong as the weakest in our community are. So we can have all this incredible economic growth, all these wonderful things happening over here, but if we're ever leaving someone behind, that's the true gauge of where we are. And we can't lose focus and can't give up on fighting to bring everyone over and making sure everyone's taken care of.
Yeah.
It may take a lot more work. This stuff may happen organically without any work, but we have to focus on making sure no one's left behind.
Understand your calling. I mean, it goes down to understanding what your why is.
Yeah.
Like the question I always ask people, and I'll extend the same question to you, is what do you love the most, and what breaks your heart?
Yeah.
And I believe that in whatever that you do, a why can be formulated from those two questions, because if you find how those two things are interconnected, then you're able to play your part, and you're able to have a direction and where you want to go. It's been really great talking with you, man. I mean, as far as like recapping things that have been said, it's really letting go of your blind spots, whether that be ego and pride or, whatever negative qualities that we as humans have, letting that go, understanding where you want to be, and self-reflecting and recognizing the struggles and recognizing where the battles lie. Surround yourself with people that support you and will challenge you. Very, very important. And ultimately, live. Just live, because it's not all about the result, even though the result is important, but it really is about the person that you become.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do one of the things that I think helps me quite a bit. At the end of every day, I really reflect. Did I maximize this opportunity in this moment, this gift of this day that I had?
Yeah.
And if I didn't, let's check where those are and make sure I don't repeat it tomorrow.
Amen to that, man. You're a leader. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of things that as humans and as an individual, we become comfortable with. One of those things for me can be being defensive. One of those things for me can be, it can be pride. We have to recognize our faults and recognize those negative qualities about us. And we have to understand that not all the time it's just going to be us actively deciding to throw it away. Sometimes it's just going to have to be situations that arise that are really going to take it out of you. But you have to be ready for when those situations come. So when they do, understand that it's for the better, and understand that the internal battles that you face, they're meant to make you become a better person. Eric, I appreciate you I appreciate you coming onto the show, man. I appreciate the conversation, the insightfulness, understanding how community plays a part into personal development as well. And we'll see you next time.
All right.
All right.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, sir. We'll see you soon.